Are you a self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is the premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and self-storage unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Good afternoon and happy Thursday, self-storage industry. Thank you so much for joining the SBOA again today for another episode of Self-Storage Unlocked. Today, we're talking all about how to build your brand and the marketing that you should be doing behind building a great cohesive brand. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jessica Johnson. I'm the Vice President of the Storage Business Owners Alliance, better known as the SBOA. And we were created 12 years ago by our sister company, Storage Pros Management, when we were smaller owner operators that couldn't get economies of scale with our vendor partners out in the industry. So we went to all of them and asked them if we created this alliance, would they give our members exclusive deals and offers? And all of them said yes. So here comes the SBOA. Before we get started today, I want to go over a couple quick housekeeping items with you. If you want to interact with the speakers today, and I highly encourage that you do and ask questions to them while we're live, you can do that in the comment section. Please go ahead and use the comment section, drop us your name and where you're from so we can say hello to you. And we are not able to put on these free events for the industry that we do about twice a month if it weren't for our partners and our speakers that are with us today. So huge shout out to Blink Signs and Blink Swag, Call Potential, Everbright Coatings, and Absolute Storage Management. One final housekeeping item, we do have a poll section. If you could go over there and answer those poll questions for us, it just helps us to get to know you better, so how we can better service you and help you along with this journey in self-storage. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and start announcing our speakers, and we're going to show you a quick video clip from each of their respective companies before they come up. So stand by.
Absolute Storage Management is your REIT alternative for flexible and tailored self-storage management. We provide self-storage owners with professional management and consulting services through communication, dedication, teamwork, leadership, integrity, and excellence. ASM manages properties in 16 states and is actively looking to establish management presence in 5 more. Currently, we have regional offices in Atlanta, Chicago, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Memphis and Nashville, Tennessee. Absolute Storage Management has been a top 3 privately owned management operator since Inside Storage began tracking in 2016. ASM's portfolio is large enough to achieve significant economies of scale, yet nimble enough to keep your property top priority with quick responses and customized operations. The services we offer include professional property management, profit maximization, management reporting, vendors and maintenance, human resources, accounting and audit controls, and marketing. Our marketing services include online marketing, branding, and local marketing. Check out our current property websites using your desktop, tablet, or mobile device. Absolute Storage Management has AMO accreditation, awarded by the Institute of Real Estate Management. This accreditation is given to 500 firms in the U.S. and Canada who demonstrate the highest standards of professionalism, financial performance, and ethics. Partnering with an AMO firm will deliver maximum results because AMO firms offer vast experience, insight on local markets, financial responsibility, outstanding leadership, commitment to reaching your goals, and integrity and ethics. Are you working with an SBA loan? ASM has worked with multiple owners using SBA financing. If you feel that you're ready to join our team, please visit our website to learn more. Then send us an email or give us a call. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
So I am here joined by one of those pretty ladies you probably saw in the video, Grace Toddy from Absolute Storage Management. Hey, Grace.
Hi, Jessica, and hey, everybody who's tuning in today. That video kind of told you everything about Absolute. So I'm really excited to be here. I represent the management company specializing in marketing, and I'm just excited to be here and talk about branding. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Grace. What do you do for Absolute, and how long have you been with them?
I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Sales, and I have been here for 10 years, just celebrated that in June. So pretty exciting.
Awesome.
The company's been around for about 20 years. And so I've been thankful to be a part of it for half of that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Grace. All right, next up's Call Potential. Stay tuned, everyone.
Okay, so now that we've officially started doing full automated unmanned management all the way across the board, we now have 60 some odd facilities here in the last year and a half. We'll be at 100 by the end of the year. The only way that we can run those facilities is through our call center. So we built our own in-house call center. Does all outbound, inbound, and literally the only thing we can use is Call Potential. It's fantastic. It's the whole crux of our business. Without it, we would not be able to take payments and have all this management, rent units through multiple softwares. Honest to God, without it, I really don't know what we would do with it. So we're very appreciative of it. That's for sure.
All right, so now I'm joined by Holly from Call Potential. Hey, Holly.
Hey, Jess. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Holly, give us the rundown on you and Call Potential and what we can learn from you today.
Sure. My name's Holly. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Call Potential. Call Potential is a communication platform that automates and creates efficiencies within your business for your tenant communication. I've been in the self-storage industry for about 10 years. I got started in marketing for self-storage operators, and the owner of Call Potential also has 20 stores in Illinois. So I have a little bit of experience on both, and I'm also on the board for the Pennsylvania Self-Storage Association, which if anyone is joining us from Pennsylvania, we have our show next week, and you can come hang out with us in person. Jess will be there.
I will be there. I'm super excited for next week. Well, thanks so much for being here, Holly. I really appreciate it. All right, up next, you're welcome. We've got Everbright Coatings.
Are the doors at your storage facility faded, oxidized, discolored, and just old looking? Do they leave chalk on your customers' hands and belongings? Are you losing business to your competitors because your doors make your facility look old and outdated? Faded doors are a universal problem in the storage industry. The Everbright restoration system is the smart choice in door restoration. Everbright restores your door's original color and luster, making your doors look brand new again. Everbright is a clear coating and will work on any color door. Everbright is ready to use, with no complicated mixing, no masking or taping off the surrounding surfaces. Everbright also protects metal buildings, signs, and gates against sun fading, salt air, acid rain, and other damaging elements. At $15 per large door, Everbright is the economical answer to restoring your faded and oxidized doors, helping you attract new customers and protecting your investment.
Hello.
Okay, awesome. Well, up next, I have Jackie from Everbright. Jackie, tell me who you are and what you do over at Everbright.
I do everything Teresa doesn't do. No, I'm kidding. So I am doing business development with Everbright now, and Everbright's a family business, second generation. And so we are in the storage industry, just trying to educate more people about our services and our products. And we're also building our contractor network so that anybody who wants to get their storage restored can do that. And yeah, I should have prepared better.
And I have to just give you a quick plug. I'm part of a Facebook group the other day that actually went live while a contractor was out there doing Everbright coatings on the doors. The difference is night and day, people. You must look into this product. So thanks for being here, Jackie.
Yeah.
Awesome. Up next, Blink Signs, and then we're going to get kicked off with our webinar. All right. So up next, I have Steve Weber with us from Blink Sign. Steve, I'm so sorry. When I loaded that video, it had music, and I don't know. You got to love technology. But I think
no
everybody
problem
got
at
the
all. No, I'm super excited to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity, Jessica. And I'm Steve Weber, national sales here at Blink Signs, Blink Swag. We are a full service national sign company, but as you can see from the video, we also do a lot of print, promo, and apparel. So whether you need branding for the outside of your facility or you're getting stuff for the inside, whether it be print or some clothing, we're the guys and girls for you. So I'm super excited to talk branding today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. All right. I'm bringing all of my fabulous speakers back up on stage with me. All right. So let's get this thing kicked off. So I wanted to start by saying, you know, there's some really notable brands out there, and I always like to use the reference of McDonald's. You see the golden arches, you know what it is from the second you see it. Who can sing the slogan? Anybody? You're going to make me do it?
Yeah.
Talk about the cheese pickle, something, sesame seed bun. That one.
I'm loving it.
Oh,
I'm loving it. Yay!
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm worried for all the rest of you at this point.
and we're the branding experts.
I'm scared for y'all out there today. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's had some evolution throughout the years, Grace, and maybe we're thinking of maybe an older one. But I know. Yeah, I know if I have my TV on and I hear that and I'm not looking at my TV, that's a McDonald's commercial, right? And I hope every single McDonald's you go to, that hamburger looks and tastes the same exact way every time, right? I mean, they are cohesive. Yeah. They're a well-oiled ship. So we want that to be the same for you and your self-storage facilities. So Grace, I'm going to kick this off by coming over to you. Over at ASM, you work with a lot of different owner-operators as a third-party management group. So when they're coming to you, whether they're new or established and they're looking to grow and scale, and they say, hey, what's this whole branding and marketing thing about? And how do I make this all make sense? Give us that secret sauce of how you guys consult with them to do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of share our recipe, if you will, as McDonald's would do. So we do operate about 140 locations, and that's on behalf of close to 60 or 65 ownerships, individuals or ownership groups. And all of those properties are individually branded. And so some of them we just acquire, the owner will just acquire the brand because the goodwill is in a positive place. And so we're just going to continue to grow on that. But sometimes we'll take over a property and we really need to re-identify the brand because that goodwill is not in good standing, or it's a development that's been a trend here recently. And so those owners who are developing a new site are interested in making a brand. And so that means creating a name, creating kind of the mark and the design of the logo. And then really, as the management company, we're going to bring in your differentiator with our training and our culture and some of those components that we offer owners. So the really exciting thing for our industry is that Google has released year after year after year studies that show storage tenants don't have any brand loyalty. Like nobody's picking us because our name is the Nike of storage, which really creates this level playing field. And so when I'm coaching or consulting with an owner to pick a name, we really advise that they make it hyper local focused. And so to the point where one of our facilities was on like Mary Esther Boulevard. And so we named it Absolute Storage of Mary Esther to get that local brand in there. Similar, we've done like Asheville Mini Storage to try and get some of those keywords that people are going to search when they're searching for the product. If we can build in those keywords to our name, it just kind of helps a little bit with that SEO juice. And so that's really kind of the mentality that we have. That's the approach that we take. The only exception to that is when we have owners who are interested in building like a global brand. And so they're going to span multiple markets. So Mary Esther is not going to translate to these different markets, or Asheville is not going to translate to those different markets. And so we'll coach through some of that to try and build the brand that can still be recognized, but it's got to be local focused. That's what's going to set us apart.
Yeah, I would agree. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Holly, I saw you shaking your head quite a bit as Grace was talking. So
No, I just always appreciate listening to Grace. She's got some great ideas. And I apologize. I'm going to mute just for a second. My husband's back from a trip and my dogs are very excited to see him.
Oh, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Stephen, so Grace had mentioned, the importance of like the logo and everything, coming up with that slogan, and your company specifically is designing big signage for the properties, marquee signage, even, banners and stuff that they may need through the locations. Talk me through, like when you're talking with owner operators, if they're very new into this, kind of your suggestions on, colors and what the logo should look like. Does your team help consult with that?
Yeah, so we help a little bit with consulting with the logo, but it's more along the lines of, hey, you have a vision for what you want your branding to look like. How do we put that into a sign? Because there's been times where I get clients come to me and they have beautiful, extravagant logo, but I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be a little bit tough to put into signage form. And obviously when you're trying to take into consideration, pricing and everything. So that's one thing I would stress with everyone. It's, hey, I have a vision for a logo. It's super cool, but how do I put this into signage form for this facility? So, and yeah, just kind of talking through with them, getting that brand consistency, whether it be one location or three, you kind of want to just have something that you can align across the board from both the inside of your building to your exterior, whether it be the signage itself or the unit doors. So you want to just try to bring it all together and have that consistency. And yeah, that we worked with a number of clients that are trying to really position themselves to have that across multiple locations or just a single one.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Now, Holly, I'm going to direct these next two to you.
Before we move on, can I say one thing about the signs? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. My gosh.
Real quick.
Yeah.
So kind of to Grace's point in terms of, branding and signage, self-storage is like one of the most important parts to have on the sign, right? Grace, you're snapping your fingers.
Yeah, that's exactly where my head was when Steve was talking about the marquee sign. Even if we are calling it Asheville self-storage, that self-storage is the prominent part on the sign, because it's, again, people aren't picking you because of the loyalty they have to the brand. They're picking you because of the trust and the exposure that they have. And so just alerting the community to the product that you're offering is really important. And signage is such a key piece of that. I know we're going to talk about the online side of branding later, but online and drive-by traffic has to see your brand and see your product. And so, yes,
Can I throw another
all around.
question out there too? So as far as, because I get this question a lot, whether it be like climate control, adding that as signage on channel letters on your building. Obviously, I think there's some gray area with what you're allowed to say in certain states and things of that nature. Can one of you talk to that? Because I know I get that a lot with clients.
I can anecdotally tell you about my experience. You're right. There's some gray space. And so in some jurisdictions, we have to call it temperature controlled. Some studies even show like climate controlled is a really storage specific phrase that like an individual who is looking for storage, they don't know what climate controlled is. So there's kind of two sides to that coin. But the broader idea of putting features on your facility is definitely something that some of our owners are more interested now, as there's more competition in the area. They're really looking to kind of advertise their differentiator, if you will, like what products they have. And so throwing temperature controlled, climate controlled wine storage, those types of features on the building. Again, kind of I think it's not quite new. It's like a resurfacing trend. We saw this about 6 years ago and then it kind of faded, and I'm seeing it come back in conversations with developments.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I myself years ago wouldn't have thought someone would come in and know that this is self-storage, right? If years ago, maybe now because I'm in the industry, but we've trained the consumer to know that terminology where they're even typing that into their Google search. They're not typing storage near me. They're typing self-storage near me. It's the number one typed keyword phrase that we've seen on the Google side. So that's always been fascinating to me. But if you think about it, there's cold storage, there's file storage, there's different types of storage. So yes, I would echo what Grace said of having the self-storage. And then even what Stephen said, if you can put in there too those ancillary features of your business, climate controlled, temperature controlled, whatever you are allowed to call it, I think that that's relevant for sure. So
I think that's a good point too, that some of those features, that's your positioning of your brand, right? Like if that's the part that you're going after, like the wine storage, which frankly, I never have enough that needs storage because I go through it a little quickly, but that's like your buyer demographic, right? Like people who have nice wine, they'll pay more for, a cool place to keep it. So I think that's kind of we talk about brand and experience, but we don't talk necessarily why. And that, again, like if you're in a saturated market, setting apart your positioning is a really great thing to do.
Yeah, I would agree. So Holly, you work with Call Potential that offers a variety of service, but I'm specifically going to talk towards your call center software and just the importance when we were talking this through in our planning call, how even down to like the scripting and the hold music can add a layer into this branding. Talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So our call center software allows operators to answer calls from anywhere, from any location, basically, really sophisticated routing tools. So say, for instance, I am using, overflow to my managers and there's a location, but the call coming in is not for the location that the manager's at. By having a script that's like built into the call center software, I'm able to know what location they're calling, and I'm able to know those amenities that that location has. All of that's on the screen for me. And then I also we make sure that we have the script card. So every agent, every manager is answering the call the exact same way. So they're not going to know that, they're not calling directly to that person that maybe they have a unit with, or, they're trying to rent from. And by like making sure that everyone is going through the same script, asking the same questions, knowing at their fingertips what's available and what those amenities are, is really important in terms of them having a good, customer experience with our brand.
For sure. And then it just goes into the consistency, right, of multiple locations. Like I was saying with McDonald's earlier, it doesn't matter if I'm in Nashville or I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. If it's the same company, same brand, you should be getting the same experience across all of it, right?
Absolutely. And
Did anyone
even
want
being
to add in
able
on that?
to look up
Yeah, go ahead.
information for them, rather than having to take a call and having that person have to start all the way over. Like, that's a customer experience point that we like to be able to have available.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Jackie, I'm going to throw this next one over to you. So as everyone saw earlier, and as I mentioned, the coating product that Jackie's company offers can really restore a dingy, old, yucky door into looking great again. So there's that curb appeal to the facility, right? Talk me through that and the importance of what that plays in the branding role. Making sure that people are recognizing that there is good curb appeal at these facilities and why that would be a draw.
Yeah, so I think not every small location has the big branding as far as some of the REITs, right? Everybody knows Extra Space has the wasabi green. Everybody knows U-Haul has their bright orange. Those are very specific. So when you come down to having a smaller facility, maybe one single facility or just a few, having a nice looking facility and an upgraded facility actually really helps with your branding, because people, whether they need storage or not, are driving by your location every day, and they associate storage doors with self-storage. Everybody does subconsciously. And so, but subconsciously, if they're driving by and your place is run down, it looks old, it looks dingy, it looks dirty, it's not well maintained on the outside, they're never going to consider you when they actually need storage. They're going to go for a place that looks nicer, like one of the REITs that's very well maintained, because they have that brand image across all of their locations. They're going to go to someone who looks as nice. So it's really important as far as branding.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone want to add in anything about curb appeal and how that can help? And then I'll add a second layer to this question. We talked about there's not only the physical curb appeal of the actual facility, how that transfers from online to offline, if you will. So offline's the physical location. Online's going to be your website or your social media channels. How do they make that all cohesive and work together?
Well, so same thing. You want to make sure that your website, the pictures on your website, are of your own facility, so that when someone is, looking at you online, they're going, "Oh yeah, that's the one I see every day when I drive down this road." You don't want some generic picture of a self-storage facility, because they'll never know that it's your storage facility, or they'll drive up and go, "Wait, this isn't what I saw online." Especially if there's a large discrepancy between having a very beautiful stock picture of a website, a self-storage facility, and then they drive up and you have like an old, dirty, like you said, dingy facility. You want to make sure that they are the same and it's recognizable. And so if you get the facility looking great, clean up the front, then take your pictures to use for your Google business profile or your website, and use those specific pictures. That's kind of what we talk about when we talk about online curb appeal or digital curb appeal.
Yeah.
Talk me through. Go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
I was just going to second that, because I can't say how many times I've worked with a client and they've invested a lot of time, energy, and obviously money into making that facility look pristine. And then, I will just Google it randomly, a couple months later, and it doesn't show like that digitally. So I know there's a lot of investment going in physically at the facility. So you definitely got to make sure that translates onto your website and Google and everything like that. So I've seen that a lot.
And having pictures of your signs, Steve.
Yep, there you go.
Having a picture of your sign on your Google profile and on your website. That way, when they literally connect it as they're driving every day, and they go, "Oh yeah, that's the one I saw online."
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's just important to like state, when we're talking about branding, the owner's investment in their asset is so incredibly important. But equally important, I'd say, is the team members' investment in the property, because the pictures can look great and represent the property at one point in time. But like Jackie said, if like that website sets the example, it sets the tone, it sets the kind of like what to expect. And then when I am a customer or a potential customer and I get to the facility, if our team members aren't standing up when somebody walks through that door, if they're not picking up trash, like the brand is not consistent. And so it's just really important to like make sure that you're training your team members to be bought in and to have a say and to be engaged and to be eager and proud of their facility, because we see that that really does make a difference in the property's performance. And so I didn't want to kind of jump over that. Like, we're talking a lot from the owner's point of view, but having the team member on site being equally bought in, they really do set the tone for that property. And so that's just a big piece of it as well.
It's easier for them to set that tone when they have a nice facility too. It makes
Yes.
it a lot easier for managers to rent units when the facility looks nice and they're not making excuses for unsightly things around the
Yes,
facility.
it's both and. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, kind of the moral of the story here for everyone listening is make sure that you give your marketers good pictures of the facility, right? I told this story when we were talking on our panel prep, but when I started with Fill In Next Door, the website had a picture of a mountain in the background, and it was located in Plainfield, Illinois, which was the plains of the Midwest. Somehow it got by, I don't know, but if you're looking for storage on the street and you're like, no, that one's got a mountain in the back, it might not work. But in terms of being a marketer, and I've been on the other side again of being a digital marketer, is if we don't have boots on the ground, we're relying on, the team, and we can certainly like crop photos to make them look better. It's great to have professional photography, right? Because that will make your facility stand out. But even an iPhone's fine. Just make sure that it's representative of what they'll see. Like, here's the sign, here's where, here's the parking lot, here's the office. Like, so they have an idea when they come what it looks like. Often we'll see, operators with a lot of locations. Maybe they invest in a new website, and it's like, they got new branding, but the branding doesn't make it to some of the locations. So that's kind of, not necessarily representative of what the customer experience would be like. Are they, thinking if they're in the right place? So that's just kind of, something I've learned along the way, like they're saying, is make sure that the pictures are of the actual facility and that someone is, going into it feeling like they know where they should be going, because that's like the trust point.
Yeah, and you don't want to break that trust point too, right? Because once you do, it's going to be really hard to even get them to transact, and then that could snowball into them and word of mouth telling other people, hey, I would steer clear of that if somebody says, hey, who you're using for self-storage or whatever it may be. Holly, I'm glad you brought up the point of not feeling compelled to necessarily go hire a professional photographer or videographer to do some of this. A lot of this you can do yourself, right? Especially the newer owner operators that are just getting into it. They're being hit with tons of expenses. So they're going to try to do this the most cost-effective way. These new smartphones can do just as good of a job. I would just make sure that it looks clean and crisp. And if it does, good to go. And there's great stock images out there that you can use on other parts of your website, like somebody putting a box into a unit. Does that need to be on your actual facility? If it could be, that'd be even better. But if you want to grab something quick just to have some imagery out there are some good stock options and images. So I'm going to take this next one all the way around, because this is a huge topic in our industry right now. I get asked this all the time. We hear about it all the time. A lot of people since COVID are now moving more towards remotely manned or unmanned, hub and spoke. There's many variations of what the terminology is and what people call that. So if I'm an owner operator and I'm not employing someone in my office, in my retail space to be there to do the greeting, and I am going the automated way of remote for their transactions, is that branding and messaging different in that scenario than if there is a human there to help them? Walk me through that, and we can kind of go all the way around, because like I said, I know this is a huge topic in our industry right now.
I'll give my opinion first, if that's okay with everybody. I don't know if the branding has to change. I think your differentiator might be a little different. But I think branding is still very important. Your focus might shift away from the product of climate controlled and more towards security to kind of reinforce the fact that, yes, somebody might not physically be there every day, but we are still secure. But I think you still have to, well, I retract. You might have to be more intentional with your sign branding. So more intentional with directional signs, more intentional with, here's a way to pay me online or rent online, and here are the steps to do that. You also have high impact moments to reinforce the voice of your brand in some of those signs. And so we actually just did this kind of internally. We're putting together some caution signs for our properties. And instead of saying, like proceed at your own risk or just caution and then just like, here's a caution sign. We chose to say, pardon our mess, improvements are underway. And so still able to effectively communicate, hey, like there is some stuff going on at the facility that's not normally here, like proceed with caution. But did you change, like, did you feel the change of the posture? Like you felt it's a little bit more personal. It's a little bit more friendly in tone. And so that I think is a really, again, high impact way to continue your brand, whether you're manned or unmanned. It's just through kind of those printed signs or print materials.
Yeah, and I would say with that too, Grace, I mean, so what you're essentially saying is like you're humanizing the brand a little bit by adding that personal touch and talking like it's a person-to-person transaction versus, something different. Awesome. Anybody else? How should the messaging be different, or different signage needed in these scenarios for directional cues? Because the last thing you want to do is have somebody pull up to the property and be confused and go, I don't know what to do here to make this transaction go through. Help me,
I would say more signs, more posters, even if you're like lightly staffed, because someone's gonna, try to get in and get into their unit and they can't, and they're gonna need help. How far do they have to walk back to a sign or, looking for a person? So if at those access points you have to rent a unit, go online to pay your bill, go online to talk to someone. This is what you do. That could be as simple as it is, right? And just have them on your access points, and even when they drive in. So you're drilling into them, like they're seeing all that information and then it's close to them when they need to. That's, again, the good customer experience.
Yeah, over communicating definitely in those situations with signage. And to be honest, I think we're still in that phase of trying to figure it all out with the unmanned. And everyone can contest certain areas just work differently than others. So you may, in New York City, these people are used to this, like as far as, all right, no one's here, I know to check on the wall and log in. But other areas of the country, they're like, I don't want to use my iPhone. So I think from the signage end, it's still it's a learning process, and I've been trying to talk more and more with these third party managers. And what are you seeing? What questions are you getting every day that the person managing it's like a broken record? Okay, how do we get that? It's one thing to get it on a sign. It's another thing for them to look on a sign, because heck, there's still times in the day that there's a sign right in front of me, but you get marketed so much, it's like you almost ignore it these days. Yeah. So
sign fatigue.
Yeah,
yes.
It's like, yeah, of course I should have just opened the door that way, but I didn't read it, and so it's a work in progress. But yeah, over communication, I feel like is the way to go until you kind of get it all figured out.
And I think speaking to Grace's point about security, people have to, when there's not somebody there that they can go to ask questions, and they have to feel secure. It has to be clear. That ties back to that digital curb appeal. It has to be clear that this is the place you're looking for. This is the place you found online. This is the place you rented your unit. Now this is how you get in. Like, it has to be very clear and cohesive messaging from online to off, and they have to feel safe, especially in that unmanned facility, I think, more so. They have to feel safe. And so that's important.
Yeah, for sure. So I had a funny call with an owner the other day, and we were looking at some of their promotional materials. And each one had a different variation of the green from their logo. And me as a marketer, I about fell over. And to them, it was like, oh, it's like a shade or two off. It was not a shade or two off. It was several shades off. So, I mean, when again, I'm going to go back to McDonald's, the golden arches. It's the same color no matter where you're at. Somebody talk me through that process, and like, maybe I'll go to you, Stephen, first, and then we can go round table. But I mean, this has to go from the signage to the website to the brochures to the business cards to the uniform to the, I mean, I can keep rattling a list of products, right?
I mean, raise your hand if you know your brand's hex code by heart. Like,
I just got the document from our team yesterday. Just a reminder, guys, here are our brand standards. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, Holly, because I would say this to an owner operator, no matter whether you're small, because you might be coming in with one location in scope right now, right? And as this thing starts to produce you revenue, as it will if you run it properly, you're going to go, maybe I want 5 locations, but maybe you didn't have like that, long play brand in mind. You just had, I'm going to have one location, whatever it is. So, I mean, it is super important to know this. So you should be consulting with someone if you don't know how to do this on like a brand guide. Your font needs to be consistent across everything. Your colors need to be consistent across everything. And yeah, the naked eye might not be able to get it like that as quick as like we do, because we know it. We live, eat, and breathe it, but they will see, I mean, they see it, right? So talk me through why that's important.
Was that directed to me? I was just going to take it over.
Yeah, no, girl, okay. It's your show. So, take it.
Yeah. I think once you get to the point where you want to establish a brand, I definitely think you should work with a professional. And in terms of working with them, obviously you're going to get your logo, you're going to get the hex codes for your logo, you're going to establish your fonts, and then you're going to ask them to create you a brand standard document, right? Like Steve mentioned. And it might even be in a PowerPoint, but this is, you're going to use this everywhere. You're going to give it to Steve when Steve makes his sign. You're going to give it to Jackie when Jackie's getting you paint. Like this is like, anybody you work with that's going to have anything forward facing with your business, that to have your brand, is going to get a copy of this document, and lock it down so it can only be edited by 1 or 2 people that are trusted. So and again, like,
that's actually a really good point, Holly, right? Because
they make copies and versions, and it's got to be approved, right? And even Canva, which is a free tool, I know Jesse talk about it a lot. I think all of us use it in making marketing materials. If you're making your own marketing materials, you can set your brand standards in Canva. So you can set what your hex code is for your brand color. You can upload your logos. You can default what font you're going to use. And that's going to make your life so much easier, especially if you're, a 1 or 2 person team or facility and you're doing your own marketing.
Yeah.
And go ahead,
Jess. I was just going to say, you asked like the purpose of this. Like, we as marketers, we're pretty sensitive and think that this is really important. But from an owner operator, why is this important to you? Well, I said earlier, Google said studies show nobody is picking you because of the loyalty to you. They're picking you because of the trust, which is signage and your reviews and all those things that kind of build trust. But they're also picking you because of the exposure. And all of these things, it's the rule of 7. A consumer has to interact with you 7 times before they trust you, and they are exposed to you, and they're ready to make that purchase with you. And so having that consistent color being present, the consistent font, the consistency in the name, all those things add up to 7. And so it does help the bottom line. And so we're not just speaking as marketers saying, do this because we're obsessive about it. There's data that backs this up and says, yeah, it's pretty darn important.
And I just want to point out that Grace is in a hotel lobby right now at the Tennessee Self-Storage Association. And she picked the blue cube to sit in because it goes with her brand colors. She didn't pick the orange one. She got the blue one. So, thinking
Yes.
ahead.
That's awesome.
You guys are getting an exclusive video here, and so is this hotel lobby.
I love it. I love it. I wanted to point out a free tool that people can use too. Let's say for whatever reason you lose this brand document and you're like, I don't know what shade of red that is in my logo. There's a free hex code finder on the internet where you upload your logo. Hopefully you have that file, and you can hover over that red and it's going to tell you exactly what that hex code number is. So if something gets lost along the way, it is pretty easy to recover. So don't panic. Or you can work with a marketing professional to have them figure it out, because I'm here to tell you they will know. They will figure it out.
So that's a really good point that you reminded me to. This is like taking me through like all the horror stories of things that have happened and, the years of marketing that I have under my belt. If you are paying to get a logo done, make sure you also have in that price that you get the design files.
Yes.
Because freelance marketers are freelance, and then you might never hear from them again. Or they move companies, or the files are lost because it was on that computer. Always get the working file, because then if you need to make adjustments or different sizes or things of that nature, you have that.
Yeah. And if you do work with a website company, please get admin access from them as well. I talked to an owner in New York that he contracted with someone. They were his webmaster. They locked him out of everything. The relationship went south. He had to rebuild his entire website because he couldn't get into it. So these are things you need to be thinking of that you might not necessarily think are critical and important until the time comes when it's critical and important, like that scenario. And these, building a website's not cheap, and he had to do it twice. Well, he could have only had to do it once if he would have had some of those measures in place. So anyone else have anything to add? I'm going to open this up. We've got about 12 minutes left. So audience, if you have questions for our speakers, please bring that out or ask those now. And Grace, I was going to go back to your point of like variations of the name of your business. Big no-no, right? Your brochure, if it is Amy's Attic Self-Storage, it better be on the website, the phone greeting, the brochure. Like, talk me through that, someone, because that's critical too.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking about like the consistency across all of the platforms, that we see that more with whether you're going to say self-storage or storage. And sometimes that's a huge differentiator. We haven't talked about like how you kind of research and decide your name, but we've walked into markets where we are Hernando Self-Storage and there's a Hernando Storage 6 miles down the road. And so make sure you're like kind of getting an understanding of what is your competition, what's in the area, because that does matter to us. We know we're self-storage, but to Google and to some consumers, that's really confusing. So that definitely matters. And then the consistency when your team is picking up the phone, when your website is where Hernando Self-Storage, answering Hernando Self-Storage, all of those different name fields need to be consistent. Also thinking through, like we had a property, talking about how specific we are. It was Capitol Boulevard Self-Storage because it was on Capitol Boulevard in this area. We had to make sure that everywhere was like all of those components to the name were consistent, so that Capitol was always spelled out, Boulevard always spelled out, self-storage always spelled out. And so even to the T of, is it going to be BLVD or is it going to be Boulevard? Like those little things, I know that sounds so nitpicky, but those things matter not only from the consumer's perspective, but they especially matter from a website perspective. Google can see that Boulevard is spelled out or it's not spelled out, and you won't get as much credit if there's differences. And so just basically what I think we're saying is hire somebody that's anal retentive to just audit your presence.
Details are important. And Grace is talking about name, address, and phone number consistency. If you want to do like any kind of research around search engine optimization, she is absolutely right on the money. And while you were talking about websites and stuff, Grace, it reminded me that you should obviously, like, you'll have the domain that your website's on, but again, like Grace said, so Phil's brand is Next Door Storage. So we have nextdoorstorage.com and nextdoorselfstorage.com. because, people can interchange what terms they're using. So if you have your brand name and with self-storage, try to see if your brand name with storage is also available, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's just like a safeguard. Like, we don't want anybody else to piggyback off of the hard work that we're doing.
Exactly.
And that's funny. That's funny that you mentioned that, Holly, because when the SBOA was created and we did our website, we wanted www.sboa.com, not the SBOA. It was already purchased, so we threw in the SBOA. Well, now SBOA.com is available. I watch it like a hawk to see if, and I've come to find out
it was $10,000, it can be yours.
No doubt. I have brokers, website broker, URL brokers contacting me all the time. And I'm like, I don't need you guys. I just need to get this. But it was when I researched it, I found out it was a contractor, like a roofing or some sort of contractor in Texas. The business had folded. They've gone out of business. So now that URL is available for me, and man, do I want it.
Yeah.
And for branding, if it costs me $10,000 to get it, which it shouldn't cost you that much, but I would consider paying hundreds, if not a few $1,000s to get that, because again, it's just a good redirect point to make sure, because somebody's like, oh, SBOA, yeah, SBOA.com, not thinking it's the SBOA.com. So the audience is really quiet today, guys. I would love for you to ask us some questions. Actually, we do have one from Curtis, and then I'm going to jump over to 2 of the responses to the polls and come up with some questions from there. So Curtis is asking, do you think online rental conversion rates differ in age brackets?
So Curtis is a part of Absolute Storage Management.
He's putting you on the spot then, isn't he?
Well, I'm just so interested in what triggered this question, Curtis. There is trending data that shows that rental conversion rates differ in age brackets, but we also have to marry that too with are they first-time users or second-time, third-time returning users as well? Because we see that a lot of our current customers are more comfortable using online rentals because they know what questions we're going to ask. They know the size that they're interested in. And so sometimes I think that the numbers might be skewed because our current customers are very comfortable with it. The age brackets that we see the most of are kind of that 35 up into 50. And so it spans a couple of different groups there. And so I have not cross-referenced how many of those users are current customers. And that just would be a kind of an additional layer to the data that might help paint a clearer picture.
You know what I'm interested in seeing data around is if those online conversion rates increased with the use of QR codes, because you don't have to find your browser. You don't have to type it in, and navigate. You can go directly to the page that you need to. So, I mean, again, like I say this all the time in every presentation, so I'm sorry to everyone, but like they say, basically like the greatest upset of 2020 wasn't the pandemic, but the QR codes were relevant again.
Yeah, I was just going to say that QR codes are the winners of COVID and everything.
They are. It's a cost-effective resolution, right? I mean, it just is.
Apple even has it in your camera now. You don't even have to have an app. Like, could it get any easier?
Yeah. All right. We've got 2 more good questions that just came in from the audience. So thank you, audience, for waking up today. We have Eric here saying, I've read somewhere that women are the decision makers in which self-storage facility to do business with, even if I see mostly men coming and going. Do you concur? I'll go first. I'll say yes.
I think women are the decision makers in any buying activity in the household, actually. They're the ones who are making the majority of the decisions. And then men, I think, coming and going, they're the ones actually moving the stuff in and out of the storage.
Get this out of my house.
Like, I did my part. Now's your turn.
Yeah.
I want to create a restaurant called I Don't Care. How many times do you ask your significant other, what do you want for dinner? I don't care. Well, let's make a restaurant called I Don't Care. And that's where everybody goes, right? It's like subliminal. But yeah, no, Jackie, I would totally echo that. Like they make the majority of the decisions for sure. Allison Brooks is asking, how do you build employee engagement to get them invested? It's a good one.
To be a great that way. Grace.
I'll tell you in our experience how we've done it. We take a very educational approach to it. So really bringing in the property manager. I know you guys are hearing that background. Are you
You hear it?
Gosh darn
Sounds
it.
like lunch.
Are you
Is
safe?
lunch being served or something?
I don't know. Apparently, it is time for some maintenance things, but a very educational approach. So we bring in our property managers in preparing and reviewing our financial statements, which then ultimately go to the owner, but really telling them like how each rental is affecting the business, how each move out is affecting the business. And so trying to help them understand, but then also engage them in moving the program forward and moving the property forward, excuse me.
Grace, you're gonna love this next
gosh.
question. I have to put this up here. I can't not. Is everyone at Absolute Storage Management as smart and capable as Grace? I'm gonna go ahead and say yes.
Great group.
I would say I am a product of Absolute. So whatever that means, take it for what it is. I promise I didn't seed people in the audience. Like this is just organic from the LinkedIn post, from Jessica's advertising. So I'm excited to see Absolute has showed out today.
That is, I just love that. But no, Grace works with a great, sophisticated group of some very, very intelligent people. So I love that energy because obviously it's like rubbing off of all of you onto each other. So one final question I'm going to ask you guys, because I see this here in the poll question, the majority of today's audience is looking to buy a self-storage property.
Ooh.
All right, let's say they
Welcome
get it.
to the
They have
industry.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Welcome to our big dysfunctional family. We're happy to have you. But let's talk them through and give them some encouragement of like, okay, maybe they're coming into like a facility that's a value add type property. It's not been ran properly. It needs maintenance. It needs upgrades. It needs a functioning website. Give them some encouragement, guys. How do they start to like skin this cat a little bit? It's baby steps. You can't eat an elephant.
I would say the first step is to look into your CapEx when you're buying a facility. And if you're buying a value add facility, figure out what your costs are up front. You figure out what it's going to take to bring that facility up to snuff. So I know, like, I've been giving quotes to people as they're in their due diligence time period. They call me and go, hey, I'm going to get this. This is the address, how much it'll cost for us to make it look better. And really evaluating the exterior and making sure that it can be restored. Or if you are rebranding to package your, say this is your 5th facility, right? And you are trying to rebrand and have them all the same color with all the same logo, and you're trying to wrap all that, getting that cost for rebranding that facility before you're actually closed on that facility, so that you know what your costs are going to be all together. That's my suggestion.
I love that recommendation. Steven, what's your recommendation?
Yeah, I would say definitely adding to that, because there's plenty of times where we're pulled in and just like, hey, I need numbers for the bank, or just to kind of see where we're at. But also, you don't have to take everything on at once. Like, for instance, as much as I would love to, replace certain types of signage across your whole building, sometimes, painting your pylon sign and putting up just new faces or retrofitting the sign to LED goes a really long way. So, don't feel as though you have to take everything all on at once. Obviously, chunk it up as you can and maybe do it 1 year and 2 year and just see how things go. But yeah, that's what I would say. Don't try to take it all on at once, because at that point you may be stretching yourself out and stretching yourself too thin too.
Steve, you guys do neon signs?
We have partners that do neon. There's less and less of them, but yeah, we do have experience with neon, definitely.
I think Jess needs an SBOA neon behind her on the white wall.
Nice.
I agree.
The LED stuff now that looks like neon, and
really?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of, we can definitely do that.
Listen, if you come to any of the trade shows, which I'm going to talk about here before we wrap up, because we are unfortunately out of time, but I want to encourage the audience on a few things. But before I say that, if you come by the SBOA booth and you get some of our fun goodies, our chapsticks and stuff that we've had, it all comes from Steve's company. So any of our printed materials, and it's all great quality stuff. Their team has a dashboard and database. They put my proposals in there. I can review the artwork. If I don't like it, I can kick it back. So it's a very interactive and collaborative experience, as it should be. It's your brand. Go ahead, Holly.
There you go. Love it.
Send me some information.
Absolutely. And just to chime in on the whole engagement with employees, our dashboard does a really good job where you gift cards of $25 where it's like, hey, you had an amazing month. Yeah. Go buy some swag, go buy, so we have that functionality. Yeah. So that's cool, another creative way to keep that engagement.
Yeah, you can have a contest, a point contest. Maybe you're looking at a certain metric you want to move the needle on, obviously more rentals, or maybe for that month, insurance sales. I'm just going to throw it out there. Whoever has the most points can redeem it for some cool swag, branded swag that they can wear while they're working, while they're outside of work, and they become a walking billboard for you. Yeah. So, I want to just close out. Grace is at the Tennessee show. Holly and I next week will be at Pennsylvania and the Northeastern show. I highly encourage the audience, if you are not involved with at least your state level self-storage association, go on Google right now, look it up, register. It's a few $100s a year, if that. Well worth your money spent. And then obviously, if you want to add the ultimum level to that, the ultimate, I can't talk today. I always get to these at the end of these and I'm like, okay, I'm mush. But anyway, if you want to go to the ultimate level, register for the National SSA. We're in trade show season. We are traveling from state to state. We want to talk to you. We want to help you with your business. All of these vendors and providers and speakers that are here with us today have great products and services, and you can meet them at a lot of these shows. So everyone, thank you so much for being here. Holly, can't wait to see you next week. Everybody have safe travels if they're traveling. And audience, if you want to watch this replay, you can log on to the SBOA YouTube channel tomorrow. It will be up first thing tomorrow morning. If you missed any of those nuggets you want to go back and listen to, you can absolutely do that. So bye, everyone. Thanks again so much for helping me host today.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, audience.
See you.